U.S. cutting $285 million from the UN's budget, from our contribution to the UN's budget next year. Ambassador Nikki Haley vowing, quote, "We will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked. You can be sure we'll continue to look at ways to increase the UN's efficiency while protecting our interests."
Here to break down why this is a good move for America is author and columnist Mark Steyn. Mark? First,
hey, Mark.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, happy Boxing Day, as we say in my cultural tradition.
Quickly, what is Boxing Day?
Boxing Day is the day when you traditionally give a box of Christmas gifts to your servants. I gave my necktie to my footman this morning,
understood.
which is why I celebrate Boxing Day.
You're such a giver.
It is generous.
Speaking of giving, we are not going to be giving as much to the UN, and the UN's not going to be having as much. $285 million out of their budget. Why is the actions that Nikki Haley took, obviously through the president, why is this so important?
Well, I think the problem with the UN is that it was the Second World War victory parade preserved in aspic, and that was a great idea in 1945. The majority of members didn't exist as independent nations in 1945, and now you have a situation where essentially the dictatorships vote en masse, vote as a bloc. The 58-member Organization for Islamic Cooperation, for example, is a monolithic bloc, and the democracies are outvoted. And half the democracies are anyway just people who strike attitudes, like the European Union did mostly with the Israel vote. And so it's simply not an effective vehicle for America. And America, by the way, just to accentuate the cultural differences, you guys aren't imperialists. So when you found yourself top dog in the world in 1950, instead of having a conventional empire, you set up these multilateral institutions to work through them. And one of the results of that is that you diminish your own voice and you bulk up all these pipsqueak poses.
What impact do you think it's going to have? Because the Trump administration is clearly sending a message to the UN. Will it have an impact?
Yeah, I think it will. I think if he's serious. I mean, Trump is the one guy who would do it. If you think of previous Republican presidents, the first George Bush was the kind of guy who could name off the top of his head the deputy trade minister of the South Sandwich Islands. He thought multilaterally like that. And George W. Bush was a bit like that. But Trump I think, is serious, and he's the one guy who could actually roll back the UN. 22%. Why should one nation fund 22% of the costs of a club with 200 members?
And then get outvoted and indicted by that very club.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys all have their stupid anti-American vote and then stick U.S. taxpayers with the tab.
It's an important moment for sure. Another thing the president has been very serious on is immigration, specifically illegal immigration, and especially chain migration, as we learn now that 2 more terror suspects were brought into the U.S. through chain migration. Do we need any more proof that our immigration system, legal immigration system as well, is fundamentally broken?
Well, look, if you have chain migration, you don't have an immigration system, because 70% of immigrants to the U.S. come through chain migration, which means the United States has effectively no say in them. All countries have the right to select who they admit within their borders. If you have chain migration, you don't have this guy in Pennsylvania, for example. He's an Egyptian, this latest jihadist. He's an Egyptian who is a distant relative of some guy who came 2 generations ago. They're basically self-selecting. That's a huge security flaw for any nation.
Well, and we've also seen the visa lottery come under scrutiny as well. But do you think Congress is going to act on this? Because for some of these changes to be made, it's going to take an act of Congress. So is there the will in Congress to make these changes?
And how is this not a layup for Republicans? How have they not absorbed what the president's talking about in light of this?
Well, because it's I think it's a situation where the donors outvote the voters in a way. But this is an 80% issue. If you're an American citizen, citizenship has its privilege. You don't give it away in a lottery. It's not like tri-state megabucks. That's ridiculous.
Mark, I hate to bring this next subject up because I don't want to ruin your New Year's Eve plans with Rosie O'Donnell. But there's a little fight going on right now between Paul Ryan and Rosie O'Donnell. Paul Ryan tweeted this: "At the end of each year, no matter how short or long it may feel, there's always Christmas waiting for us, as that sense of wonder the shepherds felt when the angels appeared in the night sky to herald the birth of a Savior." To which Rosie responds, "Paul Ryan, Don't talk about Jesus after what you just did to our nation. You will go straight to hell. You screwed up, fake altar boy. Hashtag Judas much? Go.
She basically walked in on his nativity scene the way that topless woman did, and picked up the baby Jesus and smashed him over the head with it. Look, I don't know whether Paul Ryan is going to hell. My vision of hell actually is being trapped on a long elevator ride with Rosie O'Donnell. The best thing, if you're a Democrat, the best thing that Democrats could do to sweep Congress, win the 2020 presidency, would be to send every minor celebrity with a political opinion to an atoll off the Falkland Islands for until November 2018. They would sweep the House, the Senate, they'd get everything. These celebrities are killing them.
Well, the good news is that people are going to want to hear more from you, and they can tonight because you're actually filling in on Tucker Carlson tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's the season of guest hosts on the 12th day of guest hosts.
Why do you think we're here?
Yeah, I know. Fox News gave to me Pete Hegseth in a pear tree. It's terrible. Everyone hates the guest. Everyone hates the guest.
You chose the wrong line of work because that voice of yours. You're the songbird of our generation.
Well, no, all just guest hosts though. What? We're all replaced. Aren't we all just guest hosts at the end?
Well, I'm actually in the amalgamated union of guest hosts. We have an annual conference, and the chairman never shows up, so someone has to fill in for him. That's how it works.
Fittingly so.
Yeah.
Good luck filling those New Year's Eve plans without Rosie.
Yeah, happy Boxing Day.
Good to see you.
You got it. All right. Wall Street opening for the first time since the Christmas holiday in about an hour. Can the markets move even higher? We are live at the New York Stock Exchange next.
And first, teacher in California into a sanctuary state. Now, Governor Jerry Brown is